was owed to us and co-opted a movement that our sister Callie House spearheaded. And I don't want anyone to ever forget her name when we're talking about reparations. Okay, that was her. She was the first one, Callie House. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what the conversation is about. Because I mean, hey, like I say, I didn't know growing up. I was always told that Garvey was this, Garvey was that. You know what I'm saying? And he was always respected. So please, anybody in here that has some information they like to share, I'm open. I'm all ears. Like I say, I want to learn. You're never too old to learn. You're never too young to learn. So definitely, like I say, what you just said, I never even heard. I was always told that he had something like anywhere from one the 4 5 million people in his actual organization. That it was the largest ever. That he was perhaps maybe the most influential black person, definitely during that time, and maybe of all time in terms of the actual appeal he had globally at that time. DJ, you got your hand up. What's up?
Hey, can you hear me now? Going once, going twice. Mic check, mic check.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. And the reason, Sheree, we're talking about it today because it is his birthday. He is considered still an icon to this day. You know, it was, and like you say about the woman you just mentioned, I never heard that information until you just stated that. So, like I said, you're doing me a favor, and you're doing anybody else in the actual room a favor as well. If they hadn't heard that information, like I said, I'm not here to throw dirt on him. I don't know exactly. I know that in Jamaica he couldn't get any traction. He came over here, and Black Americans, they accepted him, and they not all Black Americans were going back to Africa and that type of thing like that, but a lot of them supported the ideas basically of do for self and everything else, pretty much separating to a certain degree. So, like I said, I just want to have a conversation. Like I want to hear everybody's thoughts and views on it. Wani, I know that you're definitely opinionated. I know you also quite the historian as well too. So I definitely would like to get just some insight from you on this situation as well too, and anybody in the room as well. Because like I say,
Sure. Um, so yeah, I recently learned that he said that we shouldn't be able to get on the train and ride with white people because we had nothing to do with building the railroad. We were enslaved by the railroad, number one. Number two, we built the railroads in the South and the East. And number three, we have patents, tons of patents dealing with railroad, um, mechanical devices to make the railroad run, including lubricants and gears and brakes and everything. So we not only we have three ways that we're connected with the railroad. There wouldn't even be a railroad um, for white people to be racist on. So that's one of the reasons that they had that Garvey must go campaign. They had a long list of things like that. And so when people say, because we brought up that he had a meeting with the Ku Klux Klan, and people were like, no, they're just trying to ruin his image. And then we saw a series of letters that he wrote to this man, Ernest Severe Cox, where he called us lazy slumberers. The modern Negro is a lazy slumberer, and said a lot of, you know, degrading things to us. So what I think he was trying to do, if I had to guess, I think he was trying to get us to go over to Africa. He was going to be the king, and I think these white men that he aligned himself with were for that, and they were going to offer support to get rid of us, because that's what a lot of white people did want us to get out. We use you to build the country, now leave. And I think that's what he was trying to do, but he said some troubling things and got caught doing some things. And people rejected him and said, um, no. Plus, you have um, Frederick Douglass saying, we have decided to stay. That was the beginning of the speech that he gave about not going to Africa. And he said, there is not now, there has never been, and we think there will never be any general desire on our part, our people, to immigrate to away from this land or to any other land, least of all the wilds of Africa. So he wasn't interested in going to Africa. So we definitely had people that did not want to go. I don't think that many people ever wanted to go to Africa. Because why would we? If we built a first world country, why on earth would we go to a third world country and start all over again?
Wally, let me ask you this, just in your personal opinion, because I hear people they always credit Marcus Garvey for inspiring the likes of Elijah Muhammad. I've heard people talk about that his movement even inspired the Black Panthers and Noble Drew Ali, and just pretty much anybody that came that had more, I guess we could say, a separatist type mindset. That he
I
was
think,
against. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, sorry. I think that what we're getting is people that are of Jamaican descent, people that are Caribbean are not going to let go. This is one of their heroes. They don't have that many heroes. So this is one of them. This person died in shame in the UK. He was deported. He was jailed. He was everything. Everything you could do to get rid of a person was done to this person. Jailed, deported. Um, he died in, like I said, he was buried, I guess, in the UK. He was not liked, and they just keep trying to revive this person. There's no way that you don't know all of these things have happened to this man, and there's not propaganda to get rid of him because he was a good person. He clearly was a criminal. He was caught over and over doing different things at different times, and the public made the decision to get rid of him.
So you believe that when they were saying that he was actually defrauding or doing the fraud or whatever with the ships and stuff he had, you believe that to be true?
Based on his other behavior, I do.
Like I say, this I want to cover this topic tonight. DJ, go ahead and unmute your mic. DJ, you there? And I think DJ may be having some audio issues as well. DJ,
yeah, I'm actually here. I'm actually working two spaces at the same time. So I agree with Ronnie fan. That's what I wanted to say because the evidence kind of seems like it's there. I guess we can't shame him, but because what is on paper, that's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got some feedback in the background. Yeah, you got that feed.
Yeah, I'm not even sure you can hear me still, but like I said, I'm working two spaces, but I'm gonna just yell down. But I agree with Wani. I'll say that. I agree with Wani. The evidence seemed to be that he was like kind of a fraudster a little bit.
Yeah, because when I actually started hearing about Marcus Garvey, I was actually maybe middle school, probably maybe high school or whatever, and I started hearing about it. And I started wondering, I said, well, all of the things that this man accomplished, all of the things that he did in his life, we got movies about Malcolm X, we got movies about Dr. King, we got movies, even Ghost of Mississippi, basically is about Medgar Evers and the way he was killed by Byron Della Beckwith. I'm like, yeah, this man here may have been one of the most influential black men that ever lived, and there's not one single movie whatsoever on Marcus Garvey. So that was just to me just. And for years, I used to always say that. I used to tell my friends, like, why don't we have any movies on Marcus Garvey? Like, this man was a hero to black people. Like, we always was taught that Marcus Garvey came over here with nothing pretty much and was able to mobilize black people to basically, for maybe one of the few times ever in our history, in terms of American history, that he was able to actually bring us together and mobilize us as a people and whatnot. So always, with growing up, we had this affinity for him that, hey, that he was somebody that went ahead and he had a black first mindset. He was all about black people. Like, it didn't matter that he was from the Caribbean or whatever. Like, black people took to him in this country and they loved him and this and that. And we had black people willing to go across the world with this man and go ahead and try to build something in Africa, even though they weren't from Africa, even though they, who knows how long ago, many generations removed from Africa, but they were willing to follow this man in his vision and his drive and whatnot. So, like I said, this is all like just hearing this stuff, like, and I've been hearing it for what Cherie said. I didn't hear that part there about the woman basically doing the footwork and this and that. That's the first time I actually heard that. So, shout out to Cherie or whatever. But some of the other things, I've been hearing kind of like bits and pieces and stuff. Like maybe a year or two ago, I saw a YouTube channel. They was talking about Marcus Garvey. I'm like, well, come on, man, this can't be like this dude taking shots at Marcus Garvey. I'm like, and I started seeing more and more videos popping up and whatnot. And I'm like, wow, I gotta hold a space. I just gotta hear black people's, their mindset on Marcus Garvey, how they feel about Marcus Garvey. Was Marcus Garvey what we consider a true legend, like in terms of the midst of black leaders in this world? AD, you got your hand up, and then the company, you next.
Yeah, actually, I've never really heard much about him until um, up until I started graduating high school. But there was the first point of why there isn't as much mainstream attention on Marcus Garvey when it comes to movies and articles and all that kind of stuff as compared to like MLK or like Malcolm X is because by what I've the little bit that I have read, he seems a little bit more kind of blunt in a way to where you don't have other agents, my bad, are not able to misconstrue his words in any sort of way. Because I know that one point of some of his excerpts that you wrote was that pretty much I guess it's the idea of us moving as a nation of black people, right, and not being bound to government in a way where that's going to hold us back as black people, right? And just those words alone, I might send y'all more excerpts on that. I have some of it on my phone, but that alone, it breeds such that is exactly what they don't want, pretty much, right? Like, of course, you can say about that about any other black figure, but that in particular, you cannot twist that and make it to the movie without people scratching their heads and making people think a little differently. Like you can do the same. Like you can call Malcolm X a radical all you want. You can call MLK like this dude who just had I had a dream speech, but that alone, that is so they don't even. I think that is dangerous for the white supremacists to even allow it to even get out there in the first place. That's probably why they probably don't want it as much being talked about in our history, right? Because they can vilify the Black Panthers, they can misconstrue MLK, but they cannot really take that unless they want to call him a radical too, if he ever does come up. But they don't really want him.
They can't make Garvey a radical.
I don't think he is. I think he speaks facts, but I'm just saying, just knowing how other groups of people respond to Black American figures, it's that's one person that they want to make sure that you don't want to know.
So, in your opinion, AD, do you feel that Marcus Garvey was a legend for Black Americans as well?
Honestly, I don't know much about.
What did he do for Black Americans? I mean, I think that people have taken this character who's completely trashed and tried to add things to him that are not even true, like the green in the flag. Some of these Pan-Africanists took this and turned that into the green of Africa, and it was really his solidarity with Ireland. It had nothing to do with the greenness of Africa. So they just make up things. This is a Pan-African rehash of a failed figure. It's really what it is.
Yeah, because one of my favorites, I'm going to get right back to you, AD, but one of my favorites all the time was Dr. John Henry Clark. And we know Dr. John Henry Clark had Pan-African ideas as well. So, and Dr. Clark was a big fan, big supporter of the older black people, the Booker T. Washingtons, the W.E.B. Du Bois. He was also a big backer. Also, we know of Marcus Garvey. So I think a lot of our love too for Dr. Clark and some of the elders also, was shaped also shaped our mindset about, Marcus Garvey as well. Not to cut you off, AD, you go ahead and get back in it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. To respond to your last question, I personally don't know that much about. I haven't done my research that much, but as a hero or a legend, I don't know. I have to research. I have to ask other people about how they feel about him. But I just wanted to share just I've read a little bit about him, but I would like to learn more. I was listening to what other people have to say.
It's no shame in that, brother. I'm no historian about him either myself. So, like I said, I didn't learn about Marcus Garvey till later. I was in high school probably when I started hearing about him, and then when I heard about him, people didn't, because he actually wasn't an American born. People didn't talk about him like that. Like they didn't even talk about him like he talked about Louis Farrakhan, who was prevalent in the media age or whatever. So a lot of stuff I heard about Garvey, I started hearing about it as I got older,
Right.
and it was pretty much formed by a lot of other people that I looked up to and stuff like that. So there's no shame in that. Um, Wani, I see you look like you were going to say something. So before we come in, I go to you. I'm going to see if Wani wants to say something.
I was going to ask a question. What did he do for Black Americans?
I don't think he knows, Wani, because like he said, he didn't really read up on him. So I don't, young brother, I don't think he really knows too much about what he did or whatever. I'm gonna be honest with you, Wani. Like I said, my whole thing was that I was always taught that he mobilized Black people, that he formed the largest organization of the history, like it was more influential than any Black person. That includes King, that includes the Nation of Islam, that he formed an organization, a global organization that was in I don't know how many different countries. I'm sorry, go ahead, sister.
But the issue is that they got ripped off. And I mean, having a big organization to rip people off. Slave trade, and it was very extraordinarily gymnastic argument that is insane. Basically, he said something to the effect of the Africans accidentally put their slaves on a Portuguese slave ship, thinking they would take them to another part of Africa. But apparently, they kept doing this for like 500 years. So, of course, it doesn't make sense that you would accidentally put your slaves on a Portuguese slave ship for 500 years. So, when you say that, then I've got to go back and research everything. Now, when people were talking long ago, when these people were speaking, you couldn't really research things that they were saying, but now we don't have an excuse for going for that because you can research things. So you can listen to whoever you want, but when a good point comes up, you really should research it to see if that's actually true.
No doubt, no doubt. Company, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Everything Wani said was true and stuff like that. I did my research on Marcus Garvey. He was a broke man with high dreams. And he went from financier to financier, and they were not Black people, trying to liberate Black people. He wrote a constitution for us. He tried to, he inspired, what's it called, what's his name, to do Lift Every Voice and Sing. He tried to get us trade across the Atlantic and the Pacific. He bought boats, he bought, planes and all the other stuff. But all that, in the end of it all, failed. And, to try to take up what he did wouldn't be wise in our current situation. That's what he tried. It didn't work. So, he was a good inspiration as far as like trying to motivate people and stuff like that. But it was it was a failure, for the most part. And we shouldn't have to, look at people's past and how did they do things we need currently done. That's all I got to say. Oh, and what's it called? It was all part of Pan Africanism and all the other stuff that they were dealing with the Irish and the UK and stuff. He made many trips, across the world just to try to promote this idea that ultimately failed for us.
No doubt, no doubt. So, in your opinion, would you consider him to be a positive impact on Black Americans? Would you consider him just to be hype? What exactly? How would you actually historically put him in perspective?
I mean, whatever floats your boat, you know. If you want, if he's an inspiration for you to get up and do what you need to do, and I mean, go for it. If he's not, then go for that. It's up to every individual.
No doubt, no doubt. Lawrence, go ahead and unmute your mic.
What's up, though? It sounded like he had good intentions. You know, he's no hero to Black Americans. He's not relevant like that. But if he's pretty much almost the same as Dr. Umar Johnson, who also has good quote unquote intentions. He had good ideas to start this school and collect a bunch of money for it, and it failed also. So if he had all these wonderful plans that failed, he'd be no different than someone like a Umar Johnson today with plans that failed, but good intentions. So I think he had, he's a cool guy, but I don't think he's worthy of anything hero. He's nowhere near whoever would suggest that he was bigger or more impactful than Dr. King or Malcolm X or any of our real heroes. They're grossly, delusional at best, but no, he's no hero. I think, as we become more Black conscious, a lot of people start digging into different things in more recent times, and they dig up his stuff over the past like 5-7 years, and see videos of him. And it sounds good, but he didn't really do anything for Black people. Yeah, I land.
Thank you, Lawrence. Quadir, go ahead, bro. Unmute your mic.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's going on, bro?
Not much. Same old. Yeah, I just want to back what Lawrence just said, Wani, and everyone else. Now, me personally, I don't know much about Marcus Garvey other than what I've been hearing recently within like the past couple of years. But this is a question I want to ask, right? Marcus Garvey tried to get us schools and all this other stuff, got funding, and it ultimately failed. But we know that FBA, once we got out of slavery, as soon as we got out of slavery, we ended up making our own schools and cutting our illiteracy rate down in half. So my question is, if they were able to do that without any funding and everything, why wasn't he able? And in the time where there was racial hostility, why wasn't he able to get things popping? And someone mentioned Dr. Umar. Dr. Umar been collecting all this funding to try to get schools popping for like God knows how long, but Tariq was just able to get $1 million in not even a month, and he's already in escrow now with the museum. So that's just my question. I don't know who Marcus Garvey is. I've never really done my own research on him, but if that is a fact that he did all that and fell, that just goes to show, FBAs, we're really not comparable with anybody else. It's like comparing apples to oranges.
Well, you made a good point there, Quadir. I don't know because he had national fame, he had international fame, he had people willing to actually donate and contribute or whatever. So I really don't know why the failure was. Like Wani said, there was always talk of fraud and this and that. A lot of people in our community, I know growing up, even Black Americans, felt that he was targeted by, at that time, J. Edgar Hoover, because I believe J. Edgar Hoover was just coming on the scene in the FBI, that he was targeted, that when you always hear the FBI talking about the Black Messiah, that a lot of people feel like at that time frame that he was considered like that Black Messiah and this and that. So, a lot of our people, and there's nothing factual that I can say to back that up, but a lot of people, how folklore get told down to generations and the family members and this and that. A lot of people say, well, they had him targeted because he was a Black man and he was trying to do something. And he was talking about going to Africa. And, Africa was in bad shape. He's talking about taking all these Black people from over here, taking them over to Africa. And within a few years, Africa became a superpower, and white people didn't want this and want that, and white people weren't going to let all that free labor leave America just like that either. So you bring up a valid point, bro. I mean, like you say, within a couple generations of us getting out of slavery, and forget that, even like during the Reconstruction era, you saw all of the black people that got elected to Congress. You saw all of these schools that started getting built up and stuff. I know a lot of people say it was funded by white people, yet it was black people that was out there laying the foundation, laying the work down, and this and that. So much stuff changed, like you said, the literacy. I mean, you never in the world have you had a group of people, slaves, a slave population overcome what we did so quick, so fast. So, I don't know. I mean, especially when his organization is supposed to have millions of people in it.
Exactly, and let's say even if our institutions, even if some of them were funded from quote unquote white institutions, it's not like our ancestors' labor didn't get that money, and even and let's say our ancestors' labor isn't what generated that money. Let's say it really just came. Let's just say white people really did help, but the FBA back then they really did um, use the money what they really did use it for what they said they was going to use it for. You get what I mean? Like there was no failure.
Oh yeah, I get you, and I'll add this point here too, and I'm gonna kick it to Cherie. When I hear people say, well, it was actually the white people that funded it. Like, yeah, the white people funded it from the damn money they made off of black people. I mean, so all they did was take the money that they made off of black people, enslaving them and their labor and all the riches they brought this country, and take that money and set aside a few dollars if they did anything like that. So let's not act like it was just like they just broke their banks going ahead and building some of these schools and whatnot. Cherie, I know you got your hand up, so I know you want to say something. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yeah. I think that there's some romanticizing of Marcus Garvey that's going on right now, because let's really, really think about this. Lincoln wanted to send emancipated Negroes back to Africa, finger quote, back to Africa. He wanted to get rid of. And what did we say? No, leave us alone, give us our land, we're going to mind our business and get it how we live. Okay? So this idea that Marcus Garvey came over and he wanted to take Negroes off this continent and the white man said no. What? Excuse me, that would have been a godsend to them. They literally sent a whole bunch of Negroes over there, you know what I'm saying, to Liberia. Why would they not put full force behind this man? It was Negroes that wasn't rocking with that. It was Negroes that did not get behind that. Because again, I want to keep reminding you, he did not build this million, populace of people who were behind this initiative to go to Africa. Okay, no, it was emancipated Negroes that wanted what was owed from the beginning. So, like, no, that man wanted to line his pockets. Okay, I'm not invested. I didn't grow up hearing about Marcus Garvey and calling him a messiah and all this other stuff. No, I'm looking at this from a lineage specific lens. And this was a man who came from another country, okay? Because, like, take the color out of it. Take the color out of it. This was a man who came from another country who tried to convince a native people to leave and go somewhere else for his own personal benefit. So no, I don't think that the government tried to stop him and they sabotaged him because he was speaking for our liberation. Our liberation would have been getting our land back that was taken. Because remember, white folks was having white peasants from Europe coming over here in droves. In droves. It's literally still happening right now. So I just want to really like pop that bubble right there, because I did not grow up romanticizing and admiring, Marcus Garvey. But look at it from the lens of today. If that man got off of a boat from Jamaica, flew from Jamaica here right now, and he was saying the same things, how would you look at him? Come on.
Well, what I was saying was that from what I heard, growing up and whatnot, and I heard even as an adult and stuff, that people were saying the reasons that they were coming and saying why he failed actually, or why his movement didn't go on. I mean, and you hear it from even, like I said, you'll hear it even from people like Dr. John Henry Clark and them, and some of the rest of them, that basically he was sabotaged and this and that. So that's what I'm actually talking about there now. Getting back to your point where you're saying that the woman, she was the one that he didn't actually do anything in terms of getting the millions of members of this and that. Would you say that the organization that he was with, though, did that organization have millions of members to it?
That I don't know. I'm gonna look that up right now.
Okay, because like I heard contrasting reports. I heard anywhere from a million people to anywhere to like 4 million people. So I don't entirely know or whatever. And and you're right. I mean, most black people are not. They weren't going to go over there to Africa. The one thing I will say about the Liberia thing is that when they did send the black people over there, those black people they sent were actually free black people. So I can see the government not wanting a bunch of free black people running around here in the United States as well, because they weren't sending slaves over there when they was sending people to Liberia. They weren't taking the slaves. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and empty this plantation out. Let's send some of these black people over there. No, they were going to keep that free labor with anybody. I guess they could say they could possibly be a threat at that time. And most free black people still didn't go to Liberia. But the ones that they could get to go over there and whatever, some of those people did go. So I get what you're saying in terms of him. Like, if he was around today and he came and said that, I'm sure it wouldn't fly because you have a different mindset. At that time, I think back then, too, a lot of black people looked at black as just black. Even though you come with a different dialect and this and that, you're just like me. I'm just like you. We share the same oppression or whatever. So, it's very interesting. I get what you're saying like that. That's what we're talking about black Americans, how their viewpoint of Marcus Garvey. Is he considered a legend? Is it romanticism? Is he an icon? Is he somebody we should definitely not associate with or whatever? So, like I said, it's pretty much an open mic, open forum, open anything like that. So, I personally don't know. It'd be interesting if we could actually get the pulse of black people that actually lived that time and era and see exactly how they felt about him. Of course, we know that who was it? W.E.B. Du Bois was definitely dead set against him. Did not like him at all or whatever. And they had, of course, W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T went back and forth, but I know him and Garvey really, really had a dislike for one another. So, um, like I said, it's just one of those things. Unless you were actually in that era, actually in that time frame, I really couldn't speak about it. Like I said, I didn't hear about, Marcus Garvey, and you're right, it was always a Caribbean thing. Most Caribbean people, and the funny thing is that most Caribbean people at the time he was in Jamaica didn't want to have anything to do with Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey couldn't get anything rolling in Jamaica. And once he was deported from the U.S., he went back, ran for office in Jamaica, and was defeated. Now you hear Jamaican kids. I grew up with some Jamaican kids. They did all kind of book reports on Marcus Garvey this, Marcus Garvey that. But yet when Marcus Garvey needed Jamaicans, they weren't there. So like his
Right.
whole. I'm sorry, Wanda, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you. I just feel like they don't have that many heroes, and they just trying to rehabilitate this person, and they're banking on people to be emotionally invested. So if somebody reads a book on somebody, they just fall in love with them. I don't know what's going on. They just fall in love, and no matter what the person has done or any new information you find out, they just cling to how they feel about it, and they will just want to wrestle you. But it's really just a pan Africanist um, rehashing of a person who really was not doing anything but trying to con people and get people to leave the country.
And to my knowledge, Marcus Garvey had never even stepped foot in Africa as well either. Like he had never actually lived in Africa, never visited Africa, anything like that either. So, I know people were saying that he was talking about making himself the king or this and that, but he never, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, I believe he never even stepped foot on African soil. Just to be honest there. Claudia, I know you got your hand up.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, you guys pretty much said the answer, but I gotta ask anyway. Was he able to get anything popping off in Jamaica? If so, why? If
No,
not, why?
he left Jamaica because Jamaica was not responding to the message that he was trying to send out there. His whole all
So
of his
I got a
relevancy.
question to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Real quick, Tony, I got a question to that. Why weren't they rocking with this message? Was it because they were so off cold, or was it that they know something about that we don't?
That's a good answer. I don't know. I mean, Lonnie, she's a historian. She may know or whatever. I don't know now. Like she said, there were issues and stuff, and I believe I was watching this YouTube thing a while ago, and I don't know if they were trying to, I don't want to say this and be wrong because I know this guy was trying to say that there was cases or there was instances where people had complaints about him there, this or that, whatever. So I don't know in Jamaica if anything, because I believe Garvey also. I believe when he was young, and this is based on a documentary that I saw off of YouTube. I didn't see all of it. I believe this documentary was trying to show that he also was involved with a white lady over in England or something like that at that time. Like I said, don't hold me to this 100%. Like I said, I cannot validate that documentary. I can't say that it was 100% true, but I'm trying to think that he also may have been involved with a white woman at one time when he was a younger man and may have been in England as well. So I don't know, but I know he couldn't get anything. He was not a rich man, anything like that in Jamaica. He couldn't really get anything rolling over there. He looked up to Booker T. Washington. He wanted to come to America. He liked Booker T. Washington because he actually took a lot of his actual views and his ideas from Booker T. Washington. And he wanted to meet Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was already dead when he came to America. I believe he traveled around and he started hearing black people speak and this and that. So yeah, I don't know. I can't really say that for a fact part that I believe. I don't know why he couldn't get it going in Jamaica. I just know when he was born there and when he left, he couldn't get anything going. When he came to the U.S., the U.S. is the only place that he ever got anything going at. So I don't know if it was the black people here. You had to have a number of black people here that actually believed in him or whatever. But he got things going. And like Cherie said, it was this woman. I don't know if the woman did all of the leg work and she got the organization going, and he came in there and took credit. I can't say that for certain, but I know the only time that he ever really had any relevancy, which was national, worldwide, global, was when he was here in America. That's the only time whatsoever. Couldn't get it done in Jamaica. Went back to Jamaica, and failed as a politician. I believe he was also defeated by a white person that he ran up against. So Jamaicans and a lot of Caribbeans, they have a big color issue as well too. So I mean, they're not going to come out and say it, but I'm pretty sure that time they probably consider him dark and this and that or whatever. So I'm sure that played a part in it as well too. So we go ahead and unmute your mic.
No, I was just gonna say, I put a post up in the jumbotron because what I'm saying about Callie House is not like a theory or something that people believe and it's not substantiated. Like, this is history, is documented, and people don't know who Callie House is. That's why we have to refocus and say her name, because are we going to talk about Marcus Garvey working with the KKK or not? Like, again, I think people are romanticizing this man because of what they think in that moment, as opposed to what he was actually doing at the time and the impact that it had on our ancestors.
Oh yeah, I mean, sure, you can talk about him with the KKK, and correct. And I may be wrong about this, but I believe Elijah Muhammad also met with the KKK once before too, and pretty much was coming to the idea that, hey, you stay with your people, I stay with my people. It won't be no issue, this and that. So he definitely wouldn't be the first black. He would definitely. I mean, certain black leaders are not going to meet with the KKK. Period. But when you start having some of these black people that consider themselves separatists and this and that as well, it's not totally shocking, totally surprising either. So yeah, I heard that he met with the KKK, and if you could let us know some of the stuff that some of the actual language that transpired, I definitely would appreciate it.
I'm gonna find some things to put in the
Oh, okay, definitely go ahead and do that. Just so you know, like when we're talking about the sister, I'm saying that I didn't know about the sister, so I'm not trying to take anything away from her, whatever. Because like I say, I don't know personally about the sister. I mean, you just hit me, you just educated me, so I'm not trying to take any credit away from this sister about what she contributed or anything like that. So I mean, hey, I appreciate, what I'm saying? I appreciate definitely learning as well. So definitely, if you have any more information that you'd like to share, please, by all means, go ahead and share it. You can post it in the Jumbotron as well, too. I see we got Dr. Deborah up in the house. So Dr. Deborah, go ahead and unmute your mic, sister.
Hey, thank you so much, Newstoter, for your space and still having it while before it didn't end before I got here. So I'm really happy that you're discussing this tonight. I don't know what I've missed, but I can only speak from my own viewpoint. I was just finishing up My Eyes are Black is True about Callie House. And it's such an awesome book. And I think one of the major things missing in our modern day, right now, grassroots reparations movement is the education. I was able to jump into YouTube last week where Sheila Jackson Lee was one of the panelists and at a church out in Texas. And they were actually talking about a petition that a Harvard professor is leading to ask Biden to posthumously pardon Callie House, because if you all read the book, you'll see what she went through. But she came right out fighting for pensions for freed slaves, and she, to me, and the pastor there, he called her the godmother of the reparations movement. To me, she's actually the mother of the reparations movement. And as she relates to your discussion tonight about Marcus Garvey, and this is where I say I can only speak from my vantage point. I believe, and I can't answer the question that the brother asked just before Cherie was speaking, as to why Jamaicans didn't really take to him. But at the end of this book about Callie House, they talk about in the very year she died, I believe it was 1928, that's when Marcus Garvey arrived with his movement to take us back, to give us freedom, and to take us back to the continent of Africa. And they were talking about in the book, they talk about, and I've always had this like tension with W.B. Du Bois, but he and the NAACP, they organized during the time that Callie House was fighting for reparations for us down in Tennessee specifically. And they did not support the movement. And so when I saw your title tonight about Marcus Garvey, I also remember the tension between Marcus Garvey and W.B. Du Bois. E.B. Du Bois had some, you can find good in everything. That's how I raised my children. There's some good in everything. And I've always held him up as a hero, but the reality is he had a whole lot of stuff with him, and colorism was not the least of them. He basically called Marcus Garvey all types of names, and ugly because of his complexion. And so maybe that is a part of why Jamaicans on the island did not take to Marcus Garvey when he was trying to build his movement. And the book talks about how the same blacks who took to Callie House's movement also navigated towards Marcus Garvey. And he was talking about, in the book, they talk about the economic status of the blacks, mostly poor blacks, free slaves, and their descendants. And our movement today in 2022 is primarily people who have not made it up to the upper rungs of society in terms of blackness, because I know I do, and I'm not speaking for anyone else in this space, I spend a whole lot of time criticizing those who have made it up the ladder, those 10%. Now, some of us may be that talented 10th in here, but we are the outliers, because the other so-called talented 10, they are not helping the poor people. Marcus Garvey's message resonated with poor blacks, black freedmen and black West Indians who had come to this country. And then, of course, his movement grew across the world, like you were saying. So for me, he had some really good qualities that are laudable, in my opinion. In my community, there is a school named after him. I know the headmaster. The curriculum is par excellence for the young people, the scholars who attend that school, all the way down to vegan and clean eating food. It's expensive because there's always the competition between public schools. But I remember a few years ago, before his son died, he came through, he talked about his dad. he wasn't extremely close to his dad, but he honored his dad by trying to pass on his legacy. So I know I said a lot, but this is my own position on Marcus Garvey. I do believe he is a hero for his time. They did the same thing to him as they did to Callie House. They got him on mail fraud, and that's how this government acts or behaves towards those of us who are trying to awaken our people. If they can't get us on some direct charges, they will trump them up on us. And that's what they did with him as well as Callie House. And so, while we have all these other people whose names are well known or household names in Black families, like W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, Callie House most definitely, since we are always talking about reparations, she should always be mentioned in these spaces and times, right? And Marcus Garvey for what he did, it was commendable. There are a lot of issues also with Marcus Garvey, and I think we will find that when we have the scales and weigh them, But I don't see him as not being worthy of being seen as a hero to the movement for liberation for Black people in the United States and beyond. Thank you. I yield.
So you don't have a
Thank you,
problem.
sister.
You don't have a problem with his association with that white supremacist Ernest Severe Cox, where he was calling us Negroes a lazy slumberer.
Yes, and I actually came in as Newstoter was saying that I did not even know that about him. And that's why I said I would just go from what I know about him. And there are definitely problems. And I did hear him say that right before I started speaking. I didn't know that before I came in, no one.
What about his statement? Well, there was a whole Garvey Must Go campaign, and one of the complaints was that he said Black people should not expect to ride on the train with white people because we had nothing to do with the train. We actually had three things to do with it. We were enslaved by railroads. We invented quite a bit of mechanical devices and lubricants for the railroad. Um, one of our, not one, but several of our 50,000 patents between slavery and the 1940s, and we built the railroad, so we have quite a bit to do with it. And he did not know about that. So, um, and that's besides meeting with the KKK.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously, that's a deal breaker, meeting with the KKK. From a faith perspective, I have a problem with him becoming Catholic. There are a lot, as I said, there are a lot of problems with him, but the awakening of Black people, you can't take that away from him. That's my position. And, no one else has to feel that way, but I give due justice to people who I believe deserve it. I didn't know, like I said, until it was said tonight in this space that he had association with the KKK. And so, to that end, what was that association? What was the point of it? Does anyone know?
All of these associations were to speak badly about Black Americans. So, yeah, I don't know what the person has to do to. He didn't. I don't see what he did. I don't see any accomplishments that he did for Black people, and he's got a lot of strikes against him, but I don't know. He just keeps being revived.
Well, no, I appreciate knowing that because I'm looking it up now, and it says that was his undoing. That was his final strike, his association with the KKK, and I will still go and read a little bit more about that. But for what I know, again, he awakened people who were falling asleep when others were not interested in lifting up the lowest among us. When I say lowest, I don't mean like people who are just struggling with drugs or anything like that. I mean people who are just struggling economically, as so many of us are and have in this country since before. And so that is what they cite in the book about him. But as I said, what I've known about him from his son and this school, I didn't have a problem with it. And of course, they would have no interest in sharing that he had an association with the KKK because, of course, there would be a lot of support loss, right? So I didn't know that until just now. So thank you for sharing that with me.
I just want to say thank you to Wani, Dr. Deborah, and Sheree. You sisters are definitely lighting this conversation up. You definitely informing me on some stuff like that. So I definitely appreciate you guys. You guys are doing a great job. I definitely appreciate the way the conversation is flowing tonight. And like I said, you're really shedding light and information and stuff that I myself I really did not know. So I definitely appreciate you sisters just doing your job, doing your thing. You're doing it so well. So I'm just sitting back, just chilling, just listening to y'all just drop knowledge here. So definitely appreciate the way you guys got this rolling here tonight. We're gonna go to I see Shepherd. Shepherd, you up in here? Just Shepherd, you up in here? Go ahead and unmute your mic.
All right, peace to the room. Damn, good comments on both sides. Woni's comment is definitely spot on. That did happen, and Doc, your comment is your whole series of comments were spot on. I mean, I don't see no real difference in your comments and what everybody knows already about, how as Black people we have different Black leaders and different groups of people follow different Black leaders because they vibe with them. And it doesn't make you wrong because you don't vibe with them because of something they did that you disagree with, like meeting with the white supremacists. And it doesn't make that wrong for seeing the beauty of Marcus Garvey's accomplishments. I mean, y'all just coming from different perspectives. Let's take Moni's for starters, right? Let's look at the bad things that Marcus Garvey did that, kind of derailed his movement. One of the things he did was he did meet with the KKK, and this was a tactic that a lot of militant people did back then. And the reason they did it was, one, to say that they weren't afraid of the KKK, that they weren't afraid of white supremacy, that they were also armed, that they also believed in separation of the races, that they could work together to create, so to speak, a Black homeland and a white homeland separate from each other, because it looked like in the 1920s that we were not going to be able to coexist together. You have to understand that 1919 was called the Red Summer, that it was a bloody summer where they burned and pillaged Black communities, and there were race riots in over 50 cities, and they were putting Lake Lanier and all of these different lakes, and stealing Black legislatures in North Carolina. They were just running people out of town. So people like Marcus Garvey were like, listen, this is not working out for Black people as it stands right now. And we are not pacifists, and we are not, we know we don't have the numerical superiority to beat y'all. So how do we come to the table with our enemies and figure out a way we can separate without any more killing, because we going out for hours? That's another way to look at that type of meeting. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan and Wallace Fard, they also met with the KKK for the same exact reason. All through the history of white supremacy, Black liberation groups have met with the enemy and looked the enemy square in his blue eyes and said to the enemy, we don't fear you. Well, we need to figure out a way that we can coexist, because all out war is not going to be in nobody's best interest. And you've seen what happened in Philadelphia with the MOVE organization. They bombed like 30 city blocks. Was the effects of the bomb was on 30 city blocks with fires and smoke, and we lost that battle over one house. They're willing to take out the entire neighborhood. So at points in history, strategically, we met with the enemy, and it didn't make us weak, and it didn't make our ideology weak. It was just a necessary tactic because we were outnumbered. There's been truces, in World War I, World War II, Korea War, every war America has ever fought, it's met with the enemy. It's sat down with the enemy at some point and try to figure out how the fuck we can get out of this shit and stop the blood. So that's just one aspect of what Woni was saying, and I just want to give a little background on the history of meeting with the enemy. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means it's strategic. You get to see what the enemy is working with. A lot of times in Black towns, We had to be around our enemies all day, all night. Sometimes we worked for the enemy in the black towns, and we got to assess their strength. Who was a threat? Which one of these white mothercrackers was a threat? Which one had the guns? Where was the guns at? We met with our enemies all across America to figure out how to infiltrate and figure out what they was trying to do to us. And we smiled and we cheesed and we got information from the enemy. So that's one aspect of meeting with the KKK that you can look at a bunch of different ways, and it's been done before. Another aspect of Marcus Garvey's downfall, he wasn't good at money management. He didn't really have a team of money managers that could handle the influx of money that was coming into his organization, and how his organization was just bubbling and blowing up, becoming the largest organization in the United States of black people had ever seen, the largest. Far dominating the black church, far dominating all of the civil rights movement, masses. He was bringing black people, cleaning them up, bringing them off drugs, putting them in military uniform. That's where the NOI got its whole swag from. Is Marcus Garvey, like that movement right there. Like when you say something negative about Marcus Garvey, you are also indicting the NOI and Minister Farrakhan and that whole movement. You might as well put them in there because they did exactly what Marcus Garvey did. They cleaned their people up off of drugs. They took them off the street. They gave them an ideology, and they talked about black liberation. So NOI, Minister Farrakhan, Wallace Fard, and Elijah all did what Marcus Garvey did. So it's just one indictment when you indict Marcus Garvey. Also, Marcus Garvey was fighting a larger systematic in America. He wasn't just fighting one thing. He was fighting Philip Randolph. Philip Randolph was a very influential sellout. He was an accommodationist, is what they call black men like Philip Randolph. He was the organizer of the sleeping car porters. He was very close with President, I believe Roosevelt, or one of those presidents in his heyday, white presidents, and he was willing to do anything and stop any other black movement that was violent and that was ready to fight and ready to organize violently. The sleeping car porters were porters, and what did porters do in Malcolm X's movie when Malcolm X was talking slick to the white man, and the other black man said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Charlie. I'm sorry, Mr. Charlie." So that was Philip Randolph. It was a sorry, Mr. Charlie kind of black accommodationist, and Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey types were fighting against that. So what does he do? He owns newspaper. He owns a large network. He teams up with the U.S. government and creates the Me Too movement to stop Marcus Garvey, because Marcus Garvey was getting larger than all of them. So he's another cog in the chain. But let's look deeper at what was
Wait, Shepard. Yes. Before you go in any deeper, man, let us try to kind of like flow the conversation around a little bit because we got hands up and some of the people that are already been kind of.
Yeah. All right, let me just land my plane.
30 seconds.
30. Give me a minute to land my plane.
30 seconds, bro. 30 seconds.
All right. Marcus Garvey was fighting the Boule. The Boule were all of the HBCUs and all of the powerful newspapers who the U.S. Army had threatened with hanging under the Sedition and Espionage Act if they didn't turn black Americans into patriots to fight in World War I and World War II. That's when all of the black newspapers and everybody went against Marcus Garvey at the direction of the Boule. The Boule means the hand of the king, the advisor to the king. These are the black accommodationists that hated to see the liberation of black people because they would lose control and power, and Marcus Garvey was taking that control and power. And after the Boule was threatened by the U.S. Army Intelligence Division, these are the same people that put syphilis on us. These are the same people that have been running us for the last 100 years. And in the AKAs, the Deltas, all of that is who Marcus Garvey was fighting, and he was successfully beating them. And this is where mail fraud came in, like the sister said. And this is where all of these other charges came in. Plus, Marcus Garvey, just like Malcolm X and just like Martin Luther King on the balcony, had people who were down with the FBI and cooperated with the FBI, who were black, who slid up next to them and gave information on Marcus Garvey for his downfall. That happened to Haile Selassie. That happened to Malcolm X. It's always with Jesse Jackson and Martin Luther King. That happened with every single person that ever came up for black liberation, someone else black brought them down. So he fought Philip Randolph, he fought the U.S. presidency, he fought the U.S. Post Office. If he wasn't such a down dude, why? With all
we got it, Shepard. Like I say, man, we're trying to go ahead so people don't have connection issues, bro. We're gonna let you come back to it. We're just trying to go ahead and flow the conversation. So I got you, bro. I don't like to hit mute on it. I'm sorry about that, but we're trying to get a conversation. We had somebody, Sunny hand was up, and then Sunny's gone. So we're trying to get to everybody and get them a chance to speak, bro. All right, let's go. We're gonna come back to you, Shepard. Let's go to I Love. I Love, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hi family. Just real quick, I was reading the statement that Marcus Garvey actually stated, and the issue that it is separate. I think from the Nation of Islam, their position on the Klan was the nation wanted what the Klan wanted, to live separate. Marcus Garvey expressed regard and admiration for the Klan and said that the Klan was better friends, I think, than better friends than any other whites. I think that was the issue in reference to his expression of admiration for the Klan. And I wanted to bring up that point, since that when he expressed admiration, because he was an immigrant and hadn't gone through what the native freedmen went through, his position on the Klan was different than freedmen. And I just wanted to bring that point in reference to our liberation movement or our reparations movement. There is a movement to make sure that freedmen are at the helm of our movement. And this is, I believe, some of the reasons for that. So I land my plane.
Thank you. Definitely appreciate that. For those of us in the room, if you're not, make sure you're following Newstoter and the co-host DJ. Make sure you're following us. Also, if you can, support us on Cash App, which is $Newstoter. $Newstoter. We had a couple of our people that was up here with their hands up. They're gone, so we're gonna go to Jay Winfield. Go ahead, Jay Winfield, and then the company you're next. So Jay Winfield, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hey, what's going on? I thought, Shepard, he kind of made some good points, but, I just want to say, I don't think, no black leaders without their shortcomings, from, Marcus Garvey to Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and I think that, Marcus Garvey, did make some accomplishments. He, had, the UNIA, the Black Star Line, was, teaching, black, self-reliance and, economic empowerment. But, before Marcus Garvey got to America, he was really inspired by Booker T. Washington, in which, Booker T. Washington was teaching the same thing pretty much. And what the thing is, Marcus Garvey, trying to do that, preach the, gospel of black empowerment in Jamaica. Jamaica as a whole, country was, just off code, and they just wasn't really accepting.
You there, bro?
Because they didn't have, quote unquote, racial consciousness. They didn't understand what's perceived.
Okay, we lost your audio for a second, so I was just trying to see if you're still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, my bad. But what I was saying is pretty much Marcus Garvey, in his book, he was saying how black, the Black Caribbeans, Africans, in the diaspora, they didn't have that kind of racial consciousness that Black Americans had, and that Black Americans had achieved a lot in 50 years, and what the rest of the diaspora had did, and in this entire existence. So it's always some good and bad with Marcus Garvey, but I wouldn't cast him away because for his shortcomings, of course, Marcus Garvey, really egotistical, but he did get things popping. I'm not gonna take that away from the man. As far as when he got sent to to the United Kingdom, that was all because of one, the W.E.B. Du Bois had a part in him getting deported and whatnot, and him and Marcus Garvey, they bumped heads heavy. They disagreed with each other a lot, But towards the end of W.E.B. Du Bois' life, he regretted doing that, and he even admitted that Marcus Garvey was right about the whole black self-reliance thing and things of that nature. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a staunch supporter of like Pan-Africanism, but what I'm saying, I definitely got my critiques of Pan-Africanism, especially in the modern times, because Pan-Africanism hasn't done anything for Black Americans, but Black Americans have done anything for the diaspora and Pan-Africanism. And I think another misconception about Marcus Garvey is that some people say he started Pan-Africanism, or he did what he did with it, but it was actually a Black American named Martin Laney, and he actually coined the phrase Africans for the Africans. So it's just from my understanding, it just seems like it's a lot of people. I just feel like because he's Marcus Garvey's not a Black American, that automatically he's the ops, and they try to find some kind of thing to I guess tarnish his legacy and whatnot. And I just don't. I don't think that's fair. Because he did have some accomplishments, but that's all I gotta say.
All right, appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you, definitely, brother. Appreciate your opinion on the matter tonight. Thank you for coming in and speaking. We got a new speaker, so I'm going to go ahead and let Jason go ahead, and then we'll get to the company and we'll get to you, Shepard. Jason, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hey, thank you for letting me speak. So just to go ahead and be real quick, I heard the sister saying earlier about how Marcus Garvey was saying that, great friend to us. And here's how people don't understand context or history. Let me read the full quote instead of just the part where it says that that they're a great friend. And it won't be long, but he says, I regard the Klan, the Anglo-Saxon clubs, the white American societies, as far as the Negro is concerned, as better friends of the race than all other groups of hypocritical whites put together. So he was saying the same thing that Malcolm X and other people were saying, and Martin Luther King were saying about white liberals. He was talking about fake white people who are not really our friends. He was basically saying the same thing that we say today. I would rather have Donald Trump because he's an honest racist as opposed to Joe Biden. That's not saying I like Donald Trump. That's not saying Donald Trump is the best guy for Black Americans. It's just saying that if I have to deal with a racist, I want to deal with someone who's honest than someone who smiles in my face and stabs me in the back. So I just think there's a lot of, we don't have to shit on Marcus Garvey. It's okay. Like, he did what he thought was best at the time. He was not a Black American. He can't choose which womb he came out of, just like none of us chose to come out of a Black American womb. It just happened. He did what he thought was best for Black people at the time. I agree, Pan-Africanism is not the move for Black people today. But that does not mean we have to go back and reach and lie and stretch and manipulate the truth. When even the people, the Black Americans who went against him, like W.E.B. Du Bois, admitted later on that they were wrong and they were doing it out of jealousy. W.E.B. Du Bois believed in a form of elitism. He believed in Marcus Garvey was a scholar of Booker T. Washington. He followed Booker T. Washington, where believed that Black people could lift themselves up as a mass with their skills. Where someone like W.E.B. Du Bois, who went against Booker T. and then Marcus Garvey later, was the talented 10th type. Basically the beginning of the type of person that created the boule, where we need an elite group of Black people to lead all the other Black people to freedom, because we need these elite, intelligent Black people, and that's what's gotten us the boule, which has created the Roland Martins and all of these shills you see on CNN and MSNBC and all that other stuff. So all I'm saying is that this need to attack Marcus Garvey is it's unnecessary. It doesn't invalidate what Black people are saying today about Pan-Africanism. We don't have to destroy Marcus Garvey in order to make what we're doing today more valid. But that's all I got to say.
Appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you speaking tonight. I'm going to go to the company, and then we're going to go to Shepard. So, company, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Oh man, every time I hear this thing about the bootleg, it just tickles me in my stomach. But the thing is he did a lot of harm to our people. My great grandfather, he was born in 1903 and stuff. He lived through the whole thing. When we were of age, he told us all about what happened and stuff like that. But even though people think he had good intentions, he's a foreigner that came over here and started shit that we didn't even like. We can govern our own people. We don't need somebody, a tether from the outside, trying to direct our movements, because what happened after that was a whole bunch of lynchings and a whole bunch of people, that led up to the Tulsa riot and stuff like that. It's like, no, none of us go and talk to the KKK, number one, okay, to try to negotiate with those fuckers. We don't do that. Okay, Tether might do that because they're like, hey, both sides. I think we could come to agreement. Fuck no, we can't. Okay, so basically, the man. I understand people say, hey, he tried to do good and all that other stuff, but it ended up being the worst thing that ever happened to us, even to this day.
You through, bro?
I don't want to go out of turn.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. That's all I wanted to say. I'm dropping back down to listener.
No problem, no problem. And this is the order we're gonna go in. We're gonna go Shepard. We're gonna go Jason, and then we're gonna go. Jay Winfield. So Shepard, I know you like to go on long and stuff. So let's not go long like we did last time. Go ahead, unmute your mic.
Yo, I'm with Jay Win and I'm with Jason on this one. I think all three of us is saying things for the same exact way. I ain't with both of them all the way, but I'm with them to the extent that they both drop knowledge, and they said it in such a way where they express that they understand that they don't like certain things, but there's always a benefit in the things that someone did who uplifted the people. When you got a slogan, uplift your mighty race, then that is a slogan that was needed at the time. And as nobody could come with no revisionist history and talk about the lynchings happened because of Marcus Garvey, that is just ahistorical and wrong. In 1919, they lynched over fucking 100 different cities. They was killing us left and right. It was not because of Marcus Garvey. If anything, him showing a sign of strength and bringing us all together was exactly what we needed at the time, because everybody else was pacifist and everybody else was on some accommodation shit. And Woney said something else, the railroad and the Negro and the railroad. But you got to understand, he said that because his enemy was Philip Randolph of the Negro sleeping car porters, and he was against Marcus Garvey for the white man. So he was taking a shot at this dude talking about Negroes serving white people on railroads. We need to own our own railroad. Marcus Garvey is about ownership. It was about ownership. And it don't make a difference what he was. He could have been an alien at that time, sent by Jehovah. It don't make no difference. He was about bringing us a step further in the history of black liberation, and he did just that. So moving on, I like to address the fact that a lot of people need to go research the Boule and stop acting like they don't exist and the talented 10th don't exist. The first thing Marcus Garvey did was learn from a black American and came to black America because he was impressed with us. He thought we were the shit. He thought we were the highly educated ones on the planet. He had love for us. He wasn't no tether that hated us and was trying to take anything from us. He saw us as the best soldiers to get the job done, to kick these white motherfuckers off the planet and get back to where we needed to be at. He sort of strengthened black Americans. So he was nothing but respectful towards us. But who tore him down? The black church, because he was taking tithe money out of the black church. They tore him down. Who tore him down? People, black newspapers, because his newspaper was getting more subscriptions than them. So I'm going to land right here. Booker T. Washington is created something called economic districts. When we talk about economic district, he's the one that created Black Wall Street's blueprint. Him and a few other blacks at Hampton University. And all of these black Wall Streets all across the country and all these little Africas was because of Booker T. Washington. Now, I don't really fuck with Booker T. Washington because he was saying shit like we need to be the fingers on the hand of the white man in accommodation and shit like that. But his business acumen, he said we don't need to be like W.E.B. Du Bois. We don't need to be the president of a bank. We need to know how to build bricks. He said before we want to be the bank president, let's learn how to build banks for ourselves. So Marcus Garvey was about, Booker T was about building the actual infrastructure of America. Marcus Garvey was about how do we fund the infrastructure of America, and W.E.B. Du Bois was how do we have the talented to run America. That's it.
Right, appreciate you, Shepard. Definitely, well thought out response. So I have to give you that. We got Jason, we got FBA. We're gonna let FBA Antonio, since he hasn't had a chance to speak tonight. We're gonna FBA Antonio, go ahead and unmute your mic. Before you do that, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Deborah. Thank you once again, Dr. Deborah, for your contribution on Cash App the Newstoter. You guys can also support us. That is $Newstoter. $Newstoter. We are the largest curator of Black news today in America, the largest Black-owned news aggregator in America today. FBA Antonio, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hey, yo, can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to take up too much time at all. I just want to say that I'm in support of what the brother Jay Winfield, Shepard, and Jason are saying. I wasn't here for the majority of the conversation. I kind of just tuned in about 10 minutes ago, so I really haven't heard any opposition other than brother the comp. What's your name, brother? The company that just said what he said. But I like a few of y'all. I read The Souls of Black Folk. I read The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey years ago, though. So I'm not gonna act like I'm just real up to date on the knowledge of it. But I will say this, that I don't, you know what I'm saying? This cultural revolution that we're having right now is very necessary. B1 gets confused with Pan-Africanism 2.0, which is not. It's an ideology that doesn't represent that at all, and I'm not going to go into that right now. But and I'm all for us being for our culture and things like that. But one thing that I'm not in support of is trying to undo what Marcus Garvey did as far as galvanizing the people, a specific people that he had to come do it with, which we already had that type of energy that was required for something like that to even pop off. You know what I'm saying? We always trying to get stuff popped off like that. And as far as the hangings and things like that happened as a consequence of Marcus Garvey coming into prominence, dude, we're Black Americans, bro. We went through slavery. Shit like that was happening on a daily basis. So, I mean, come on, that's not really an argument, in my opinion. And last thing I wanted to just kind of quickly touch on was that if you look at the trajectory, when you mentioned A. Philip Randolph and what he stood for and his bootleg ass, excuse my language, you did what I'm saying. He had a predecessor that came after him, Bayard Rustin, and he has been a sabotager of civil rights. You know, he made his way into the civil rights movement and became one of the if you want to say one of the people that helped the March on Washington with Martin Luther King, and then where was his legacy ended at? Trying to get gay rights popping off. So the whole Bayard Rustin timeline, everything he stood for, and the people that were in support of him, they had the system behind them trying to compromise, trying to sabotage real Black empowerment, which Marcus Garvey was about. And last thing I'm land on is, man, I named my son after Marcus Garvey. Marcus Messiah Garvey. His first name is Messiah. His middle name is Garvey, and he got my last name. And I support what Marcus Garvey did, and that connection that was made between him. I'm glad that the brothers corrected that when he did want to meet with the KKK, as far as what he meant. The same thing happened today with the people that some may call Black leaders today, which we know they aren't. We're just talking about ones that we can see who are racist, as opposed to ones who try to hide their hand behind their back and play like they're not. I mean, Malcolm X been talking about it. Everybody talks about that. So let's just maybe, him having the platform, Marcus Garvey at that time, it seemed like a pioneering statement, and it can be made the argument like, oh, okay, he's a tether, you don't know the experience. It's like, dude, that's kind of a reach to me. I'll land my plane right there.
Let me give a shout out to my man Smooth for his contribution on Cash App. Thank you, Smooth. I appreciate the comment about you loving the content as well. So thank you, brother. I appreciate that so much. Let me go ahead and also we got a new speaker up here. I'm gonna get to you guys. So we try and let some of the new guys speak. Let's let Ty free. Let's hear what Ty's got to say. Ty, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hey, peace, fam. Yeah, thanks for allowing me to speak. I was really just listening. I believe the gentleman named Shepard, when he was talking about A-Philip Roundup, I think my brother needs to do a little bit more research on A-Philip Randolph. The reason why I say that, because this man was organizing the porters. Like, the porters were very influential and powerful, right? The sleeping porters, right? I do want to say that. On top of that, A-Philip Randolph, right, got FDR, the executive order to ban discrimination in the military. As myself, as a political organizer, like, I feel like you got to put respect in A. Philip Randolph's name. If you want to compare him to Garvey, it's really no comparison. We could talk about Pan-Africanism, going back to Africa, and all these things that Garvey did. I'm not taking away from how he influenced Black America to some degree. But at the same time, we're talking about politically organizing and passing legislation and moving the needle forward. You have to give A. Philip Randolph his flowers. I just advise the brother to do a little bit more research in regards to A. Philip Randolph. I mean, A. Philip Randolph gave FDR, like, FDR did not want smoke with A. Philip Randolph in the sleeping quarters. He did not, because he understood how powerful those brothers were in regards to A. Philip Randolph, because he could have shut down that whole operation in regards to these brothers that were working on these trains. So if you're looking at actual wins and passing legislation and moving the needle forward, you have to give A. Philip Randolph his credit. He was bound to organize the first civil rights, right? The first civil rights pretty much march on Washington, and FDR did not want those problems. So that's what I'm trying to say. You got your brothers that are like really entrenched in, this Garveyism. I understand, I get it. I was once there myself. But at the same time, I think you're lacking some nuance. You're lacking a lot of nuance. I'm not really hearing any like constructive criticism or critiques of Garvey. It just seems like more like Garvey can't do no wrong. At the same time, we can always critique A. Philip Randolph. I'm not trying to be like, A. Philip Randolph is the best, and we can't criticize some things that he's done wrong. The whole point I'm trying to make is like you definitely got to put some respect to A. Philip Randolph's name, and on top of that, provide a little more nuance and just be able to critique these leaders, right, without just kind of having like this kind of blind kind of like following. That's all I want to say. Appreciate the time.
45 seconds to rebut. Newstoter.
Wait.
45 seconds since he mentioned.
No, wait, because we got other speakers, man. Come on, we got another speaker. Let
30 seconds because he mentioned me.
Hey, you'll get your chance to rebut. Hey, you're not going anywhere, man. We trying to let other people speak on that too. Pan-African hater, go ahead and unmute your mic.
So for the people that's on the that's been like advocating for Garvey, I just want to know what was his accomplishments, because he ultimately got deported.
Is that all you want to say, bro? Is just what was his accomplishments?
Yeah, because I don't see what he did when he came here.
Okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and Shepard, I'll go ahead and I'll let you go ahead and rebut on that real quick.
All right, peace. To the brother was talking about A. Philip Randolph, you literally repeated what I said. I said that he lobbied the president. That was what I said. And I also said that he was the leader of the Sleeping Car Porter Union. Now, we're saying the same thing, but we just have a different outlook on how we see it. The Sleeping Car Porter Union was an arm of white supremacy to keep labor unions that are black in check, so that we wouldn't join other more radical black labor unions who are using bombs, who are fighting police. They were just trying to keep us like the reserve team on the bench for the Golden State Warriors, so that they could use us against all the Irish and the Polish and all the other tethers, white tethers, that they didn't want being radical extremists for unions. So he was being used. Secondly, anytime that you tell me that the president did something for black people, but did not address lynching, did not address the murders of black people, did not address anything, you're telling me that an accommodationist gave away our leverage to a white president, but didn't get nothing out of it. He didn't recognize Philip Randolph had power. He recognized that he could play Philip Randolph against another black person and destroy them both in the end and not give us nothing. And that's exactly what FDR did at the end. They realized they needed black laborers. That's why they put black people in the bomb bays of bomb railroad cars that were carrying bombs and loading bombs on ships. They needed our labor for the military. That's why they subverted black newspapers and threatened to murder every single black newspaper owner if they didn't start printing patriotic dialogue in their newspaper. And I can show you the old newspapers where they all flipped after a certain year and started being, yay, America, go fight for America, and stop talking about that, stop talking about liberation and lynching. So I don't need to do any more research. I think Philip A. Randolph, for his time, was a dope individual for what the hand he played. But he was an accommodationist Negro. You need to look up that word and see who was against accommodationist Negro. It was the violent Negro that wanted his freedom now, who wanted reparations now, who wanted lynching to stop now. He was the one fighting against the now motherfuckers. And he would be, if Philip Randolph would be fighting against FBA and Freedmen today, he would be up there on NBC saying, no, we need to go work on the railroad and keep and empty the white man's piss bucket. I land.
Can I jump in on that, please?
I got to jump in on that, too. I'm sorry.
Wait. Who is that? Dr. Deborah, you want to say something?
That wasn't me.
That was Ned. I'm sorry, Ned.
Okay, Ned. Well, I can go ahead and let you go. Next time, just raise your hand, because I'm not...
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I just wanted to respond real quick, and I'm going after that.
Who was that said that? Leon?
That's Ty Freeman.
Okay, well, Ty, go ahead.
I hear everything you're saying, fam. The whole point I'm trying to make with A. Philip Randolph, you were just making it seem like he is the end all be all. That's how it's kind of coming off. I did not hear the part of you actually giving credit to A. Philip Randolph for the organizing that he was done. All I'm trying to say within the confines of organizing, you have to give A. Philip Randolph his credit. That's the whole point I was trying to make. Also, I'm just
we see it the same way.
Hold a second. All I'm trying to say too, for what I've been listening to, we have to be able to critique our leaders for the good and bad that they have done, right? It's called constructive criticism. It's not that we're critiquing. I'm not hearing any critiques about Garvey, and I think that's incredibly flawed. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. All of our leaders from the past all the way up to now deserve to put the lens on them, put the microscope on them, provide a little more nuance into their lives and the complexities of what they had to navigate for their time period. So
can you add some critique? Can you add some critique? Because Woney had some good critique, and we built off of that. She had the KKK critique, and Woney had the railroad critique, and we already established both of those critiques was really flawed. Can you add something different to the mix?
Fam, all I'm trying to I said before, I jumped in a little late. I basically say, hey, Randolph, this and that. So I was like, okay, that's great. At the same time, I didn't hear about you talk about the accomplishments of A. Philip Randolph. So that's why I felt like I had to chime in to at least say, hey, let's definitely put some respect to these accomplishments. And on top of that, you have every right to critique him as well. Same thing goes for Garvey. That's what I'm trying to say. For people that are just kind of blindly just rocking with Garvey, it's like that.
Mike, give us some Garvey critique, bro. All right, you got the mic. Give us Garvey
critique. Already mentioned the critiques, though. I'm hearing other people already mentioning the critiques of Garvey, so I don't need to reiterate what people already been saying about it. Everyone's talking about the case.
So it's only two critiques?
Everyone's already talking about what he said about the poor not understanding that it was American freedmen, descendants of child of slavery, that laid down the tracks for him to make his way down to the South. So people already been talking about the critiques of Garvey. I don't need to reiterate what people already said.
Yeah, but we already discredited most of the railroad comments because he was talking about Philip A. Randolph's role in the railroad and how he didn't want Negroes to be subservient porters of white men's shit and piss buckets. He wanted us to own railroads. So literally, like he's saying the railroad comment doesn't make any sense because that's been debunked. So if you have an additional critique, all of us would love to hear a different critique.
Fam, there's been all kind of critiques. You could go back and watch the Power they critiqued Garvey with the whole red, black, and green. A lot of us that followed the Pan-Africanists that grew up on Garvey. I grew up on Garvey. I used to be a Pan-Africanist myself. Like I was all into the red, black, and green until I really realized what those colors were about. So what we're doing now with the reparations space, right? All of us are ADOS, are descendants of American slaves, freedmen, American Negroes. You can try.
All right, so you don't have any Garvey critique.
Sam, I'll let you speak. Don't cut me off, Sam. People already gave their critiques. I used to be heavy into the whole Pan-Africanism and Garvey stuff, right? We're getting to the point now, though, right? We're just trying to say what has he really done? What has really accomplished here in the United States as far as advancing us as a group, our Pacific lineage, right? That's at the point where we're at now. All I'm trying to say to you is like, I don't hear you specifically giving any critique that you did before I got on, then that's my bad. But for the time I jumped on, I was just hearing you and maybe another person just basically just like, Garvey the best, Garvey this, Garvey that. It's kind of how you coming off, man. All I'm trying to say is like,
okay, all right, that's fair. Hold on, you asked me a question. You said that you didn't hear any Garvey critique. My critique of Garvey is real simple, right? I said this, you didn't hear it. I said he was a poor money manager, right? He was a poor manager of his inner circle. His inner circle is what got him caught up with the FBI. His management of the records for the Black Star Line and the management of the money that was coming in, he was inadequate at being able to manage that money, right? I said that. Like, maybe you didn't. Hold on. You asked me what I said about the critique. I'm giving you what I said that you did not hear, right? I also said that Garvey learned from Booker T, and Booker T had a lot of flaws. So clearly he has some flawed ideology inside his own ideology. But for the most part, we're still talking about Garvey today. How many 100 years later, we're still talking about him. So he must have left some type of impact on the American Negro or Black American freedman if we're still talking about him and we can't agree. The critiques do not outweigh the benefits of what Garvey brought to the table. Let Jason talk. Let Jason talk some more.
Right, just real quick.
Wait.
Really quickly.
Wait, really quick, Jason. We're gonna get to it. We got a couple people that's got their hands up, so let's go ahead. I got to go ahead and try to get order back in the room. We had a conversation between Shepard and Ty, so we got a Net and we got Leon. They just came in the room. We want to go ahead and let some new speakers speak. Jason, I'll go ahead and let you speak. Because actually Jay Winfield had his hand up, so I'll go ahead and we're going to make it kind of short so we can get around the room. So everybody, 2 minutes if you can, because we're going a little bit too long with the conversation and everybody's not, and then we're skipping over people. So Net and then Leon, you go ahead and talk. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. The thing about it is the question that I'm hearing is, what tangibles have Marcus Garvey provided us modern day that we could say as a result of Marcus Garvey, this has come forward? What we can say about A. Philip Randolph is, let's understand what he did when the Black cabinet was not being as influential at this point in time in FDR's presidency. It was A. Philip Randolph, as it was stated, that came in and said, we will have this march unless you provide us with this. And what happened is FDR, A. Philip Randolph, was able to get additional funding. There was cuts that was done that the the WPA, the HRA, to various different facets in which the Black cabinet was working to get shit done. FDR came in and Congress came in and they made the cuts. As a result of A. Philip Randolph, those cuts were reversed. Additional funding wasn't provided, but he was able to save various different housing work, things for the woman that Mary McLeod Bethune had going on. In addition, every single president up until we got to Truman refused to address the anti-lynching bill at that point in time. So although FDR, A. Philip Randolph did not get him to do that, every single president refused to go against the Southern Democrats in the South with an anti-lynching bill. It wasn't until Truman got into office. Additionally, there was one error in terms of A. Philip Randolph getting discrimination in the military done. Although he was able to get some things done in the military where they agreed that 10%, because Black Americans represented 10% of the population, he said that what he was able to get FDR to do is say, okay, so we'll take 10% of the Black community. We'll fill the military with 10%. Your numbers can represent 10%, which is what you do which is what your population represented in the U.S. It wasn't again until Truman got into office when they actually integrated the military. The other thing is, and I don't know if you all covered it, let's not forget that Callie House already had the following. Over 80% of Callie House's following went over to Marcus Garvey. So Marcus Garvey did not come here. A lot of people say, oh, he was able, even Ida B. Wells said this, he was able to mobilize and organize and get people together. No, Callie House and Isaac Dickinson already had that crew already there. Those were first and second generation removed from the South, removed from the plantation, and those were the ones that was desperate trying not to die poor and to get something. And I know you said 2 minutes on my land. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'll land.
Definitely, that was great, sister. Just stick around because we'll come back around to you. Let's go ahead and let Leon go ahead and unmute his mic. Leon, go unmute your mic.
All right, thank you, Newstoter. Another fantastic speech. Ned, you hit right on the money on everything about A. Philip Randolph. We want to talk about our past leaders and influencers, and we want to talk about flaws and everything. A lot of them all had flaws. King had flaws. Malcolm had flaws. The list goes on and on and on. They all had a flaw in them in some way. But we'll go back to A. Philip Randolph. A lot of moves were made at the beginning. You could say he was the beginning catalyst of the civil rights movement. Truthfully, with the whole thing with Marcus Garvey was like, he had a theory. I'm just going to keep it a buck. He had a theory, and unfortunately, that theory has not come into fruition. That theory is sitting idly by, withering away, as it still is today. And I'm talking about just the Pan-African movement and the Pan-Africanism theory in itself. It didn't work then, it ain't working now. So as far as contribution, he contributed a theory, but the theory didn't work. And
let me ask you this real quick, Leon, before you go. Do you think that if you had a leader like Marcus Garvey that has stayed around or whatever, that the actual Pan-African movement may have succeeded at that time? If you had somebody like him that has stayed around, do you think it could have possibly succeeded at that time?
Honestly, no. Because even with other influential educators like Kwame Ture, even John Henry Clark, because earlier John Henry Clark believing in the Pan-African movement as well. And then you had a lot of other people as well, like Bell Hooks and everything. We had a lot of scholars, we had a lot of civil rights activists that could have led the charge of the Pan-African movement to really move it where it in theory, I'm just talking in theory, that could have. But then again, on the other end, we still had the diaspora who wasn't going along with the Pan-African ideology. So when you only have the America worrying about the ideology of the Pan-Africanism, and if you don't have the diaspora in play, you're dead in the water anyway. And that's why the problem of Pan-Africanism is where it's at now. It's not moving because you only have one part of the diaspora in theory, not with the other. So that's why it doesn't work. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's dead. It needs to, where dead dogs lie. I'll land there.
All right. Appreciate it. Let us go ahead and move on to
Hey, Newstoter. Hey, I just want to say one thing real quick, man. Listen,
Who is that?
at the height of Marcus Garvey's movement, he had 3 million subscribers, bro. What are you talking about? Like, I don't think people know history. Like, he had his newspaper subscription.
Shepherd, we got somebody patiently, man, sitting over there, Jay Winfield, patiently waiting. We're going to go to Jay, then we're going to go to Jason, then we're going to come back to you. So let's, come on, man, let's just go ahead. We're just trying to move around the room. I hear what you said. I know I said that earlier, that he had anywhere from, I forgot how many millions of actual members in his organization. So we're going to come back to you. Jay Winfield, go ahead and unmute your mic, and then Jason. Jay Winfield, you there?
Yeah. The room was on mute, but yeah,
okay,
I don't know.
My bad.
Yeah. Oh, you good? Yeah, I don't know where he, I guess, getting this information from, but I don't know, like, if y'all read, the philosophies and the things of Marcus Garvey, like, I mean, he galvanized, like, millions of, black people, not just in America, but, just throughout the world, and, he set up, organization called, the UNIA, people, black men and women, they were dressed in, like, uniform suits, how to conduct themselves, similar to what, the Nation of Islam had, to what the Black Panthers had. I mean, he, inspired, the minds of, like, Malcolm X, even his parents, like Earl Little and Louise Little, Elijah Poole, who is now, who's not called Elijah Muhammad. If you even look at the documentary called Make It Plain, which is, a great documentary by Malcolm X, he even talks about how, like, he had this, black and I'm proud, and, black pride thing going on because of, it was already instilled within him because of his parents teaching him about, Garvey and stuff like that, and, just that main quote, up in the Raj Mighty Race and stuff like that when he got into the Nation of Islam. But I don't like, it's just like this, quote, you're entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. But yeah, like I said, I mean, Mark Garvey definitely had an impact. So I mean, I'm not going to take that away. Now, Pan-Africanism today is dead, of course, but I'm not going to shit on Garvey because of Pan-Africanism and shit like that. But because there was many other, people who was proponents of Pan-Africanism, such as i.e. W.E.B. Du Bois later became a Pan-Africanism and then moved to Ghana, and they even admitted that Garvey was right in what he was doing. But yeah, I mean, those are just, with the facts. So I'm not, shitting on anybody else's ideology. I just want people to just, like, be honest and tell the truth and have some kind of integrity when we're, talking about Garvey, because it just seemed like because he wasn't a black American, he's automatically a taboo, and, what he did diminish, set black Americans back, 1,000 years or some bullshit like that. When our reality, in reality, you had the civil rights generation where when it came down to, during the height of the civil rights movement, when it came down to, choosing between economic empowerment and equity or integration, they chose integration and integration essential assets, and they gave up. And some of my grandparents, they gave up being in black schools. They wanted to be integrated with white schools, and the no whole 9 yards. But that's all I got to say. Jason can take over.
All right, Jason, go ahead and unmute your mic, and then we got another speaker in here, so I'm gonna give him a chance to speak too. We're gonna try to make this quick as possible because we're gonna be closing the room down soon. So we're gonna try to get to everybody. The next, I'm gonna count the hands of all the speakers. That's gonna go. You guys are gonna have 2 minutes. We got Shepard's gonna go, and this is not the order, but I'm just saying Shepard, Leon, Ty, Pan African Net, and World. I believe World Watcher. So. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people are going to speak, and then we're going to close out the space. So anybody else that tries to speak or whatever, these are going to be the last 6 speakers, and it's going to be 2 minutes each. So go ahead, Jason, and go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hey, I'm working the clock, so when the clock go off, y'all got to stop, all right?
All right, so just to go ahead and be real quick, number one, the earlier statement about Black Americans got lynched because of Marcus Garvey, that just shows no understanding of Black American history, the slavery, the brutality. We were getting lynched well before Marcus Garvey and well after Marcus Garvey, and it had nothing to do with Marcus Garvey and had everything to do with our black skin. So that, to me, just shows, once again, an example of how we got to twist history in order to shit on Marcus Garvey for really no reason. The other thing I want to say real quick too was about Marcus Garvey's contribution. Marcus Garvey was the forefather, not necessarily directly or the first one to ever think of things, but he was the forefather to a lot of our Black ideology and thought that went forward. Like Brother Jay Winfield was just mentioning, the parents of Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad were in the were in the UNIA and were into that movement. That birthed the ideology of the do for self, do what you can outside of the system of white supremacy to be self-reliant. Even Booker T. Washington, people want to talk about, he was a coon and this, that, and the other. Tariq Nasheed, the people that a lot of people here that call themselves FBA and Black American look up to. In his Hidden Colors documentaries, he talked about how Booker T. Washington was funding a lot of radicals behind the scenes, and some of that stuff was an act to keep white people off his back, to seem like he was basically some kind of coon, even though he wasn't really. So yeah, we really have a lack of understanding of history and the foundation that Marcus Garvey laid, that led to the Malcolm X's, that led to the Elijah Muhammads. And if we want to talk about flaws, all of us who love Black Americans love Martin Luther King, but even Martin Luther King himself said, I fear that I have integrated my people into a burning house. And he changed his mentality, and that's if you study history, I believe that that's what got him killed. Once he met with Elijah Muhammad and he started talking a lot more radical after Malcolm X was dead. So it just shows, and again, that foundation, that thing that converted Martin Luther King, where he started towards the end of his life talking about he made a mistake, that was influenced by the lineage of Marcus Garvey, the Elijah Muhammads, and those. So I don't want to monopolize.
That is reaching. That's reaching.
Hold on. See, we don't want to mute the mic, bro. Just let me go 10 seconds, man.
Okay. Yeah, so I know I got to, but no, it's not reaching. You don't know the history.
No.
Marcus Garvey was an influence on Elijah Muhammad. Everybody wants to attack Marcus Garvey about meeting with the Klan. Elijah Muhammad did the same thing for the same reasons. That's why I said if you read the entirety of what Marcus Garvey said about meeting with the whites, he didn't just say, oh, I love the Klan, they're just great people. He was saying compared to the hypocritical whites, because he's talking about the same thing we're dealing with today, where you have an overt class of racists, but then you have a lot of other white people who support the racists. They're just not as overt and openly white supremacists as this specific group. So the same things that were talked about then are a lot of times being talked about now. Marcus Garvey did not do anything that was that. But
okay, Jason, we're gonna have to move on to the next speaker. Appreciate it, brother. Not to cut you off, but we're just trying to go ahead and because we're trying to close this out a little bit. I believe Shepard, you might be next. Shepard, please. You definitely be long-winded, so definitely go ahead in 2 minutes.
All right, let me go ahead and run then. Yo, check this out, man. Marcus Garvey was one of the first people talking about reparations. The sister talking about he took Callie House's following. No, the federal government put Callie House's following in prison for mail fraud the same way they did Marcus Garvey. You can't put Callie House and Marcus Garvey at odds when a lot of Queen Mother Moore, Callie House, and all of them was on that Marcus Garvey shit too. They were all on one accord as one group of people that wanted reparation and repair. You know, during the 20s, Marcus Garvey's Negro Improvement Association galvanized hundreds of thousands of people just for reparations and repair and repatriation, because he was trying to get the fuck up out of America, because he could already see that 100 years later, we would still be fucked. Like Mr. Nancy said on American God, 100 years later, you still fucked. He saw that. He was like, look, we can have our own homeland somewhere else and get the fuck up off this burning house, like Martin Luther King said, integrated into nothing. A lot of y'all don't understand the difference between accommodationist and fucking radical black thought.
Hey, let's chill on the language a little bit.
Oh yeah, my bad. Also, let's talk about his accomplishments real quick. Marcus Garvey was a publisher. Let's just talk about that alone. He had over 1 million subscribers to the Negro World, which was founded in 1918. He was cutting into the Chicago Defender. He was cutting into the Norfolk Gazette. He was cutting into everybody's bag. He was cutting into pastors and big preachers' bag. because he was getting the tithe money from the churches when people were leaving the church, because they were saying that the churches were all talk and they didn't do anything. And Malcolm and Marcus Garvey was actually doing something. Now I'm gonna land with this right here, right? He's pro-reparation. He pro-black empowerment. He got 3 million followers, more than any YouTuber y'all follow today. If Marcus Garvey was alive today, you would be following him. You would be saying what you saying, man. You follow people that ain't done nothing. Marcus Garvey, any pull up, he said pull up, you had 100,000 black people marching like an army in any city. And that's why they feared him. They banned this newspaper in Britain. They banned this newspaper in France. You had to smuggle his newspaper like it was contraband, like it was cocaine out of the country just because they were trying to kill Pan-Africanism. Now, I'm going to land with this right here. Pan-Africanism is dead internationally. But in the city, we got a festival that we've done for 50 years. It's over $1 billion between other black hands together in a 50-year festival. We bring out 1.5 million people in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn for this Pan-African festival. Pan-African may be dead as far as us going to Africa back and forth, but it's not dead in some communities.
15 seconds,
we're exchanging money and doing part of what Pan-African means, which is cooperative economics. So you got to look at Africanism as a global thing that's failed, but locally there are communities that work together under the Pan-African banner, and those same communities also are the ones out there busting their gun.
Okay, time to move it to the next speaker. Let's go to World Watcher. You got in here late, so I'm gonna go ahead, World Watcher, and let you get like 2 minutes because we're gonna be closing this out in a second. So go ahead and unmute your mic.
I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. I noticed, I say in the last few years, you got people like Marcus Garvey, Louis Farrakhan, and quite a few people who were revolutionaries who've been criticized when it comes to what we're trying to do today. And I find it interesting that people today are trying to reach back, sometimes even 100 years ago, to tear down people who were feared by the West, who were feared by white supremacy. So for us black people today in 2022 to reach back and try to tear down black folks in a whole nother time under way different conditions is cowardly like a motherfucker. Oh, and I apologize, I already know. So to anybody today, and I refer to you guys as these new ends, because a lot of you guys don't respect the elders like you should. That was a whole different time that he was doing that. And he was part of a huge influence on getting us on a revolutionary path in the first place. So any of you guys who have your views today, Marcus Garvey has nothing to do with what's going on in 2022. So to reach back 100 years ago to tear down somebody like you're a coward. I'm going to just say it like that. And a lot of it is these new cats who have no sense of history or culture. You could be a black American and you could be on your black American thing, but moving you forward, tearing down somebody like Marcus Garvey or going at Louis Farrakhan or anybody else does nothing to move you forward. These are people who are feared by the West. These are people who are feared by white folks. So for you to attack them, I'm looking at you sideways. So I'm going to land right there.
All right, appreciate it. Net, go ahead. I'm gonna go Net, and we're gonna go to Leon, and that's it for the night, y'all. So go ahead, Net.
Really quickly, he misspoke on me, the guy, when I talk about Cali House. Cali House was long before Garvey even got to the U.S. So please understand that was a transition. It was Cali House's people, then Marcus Garvey. The other thing, it's not cowardly for us to look back on people that made decisions that impact us modern day. It's so, if you made a decision 100 years ago, and that decision that you made impacts us present day, we have every right as Black Americans to look back and reflect on that and discuss it. Additionally, even how Garvey had over 1 million followers, relative to I know notable black leaders in terms of population, they all have high following and a high following. The fact that you were able to impact and get people emotionally engaged does not mean that you were extremely instrumental in impacting our day for modern day. Again, outside of Sumner Avenue being renamed, Marcus Garvey, Mr. Brooklyn, help me understand what Marcus Garvey did to impact those, but that's from the style, that's from Brooklyn modern day that we can go back to. Again, I'm not sitting up here trying to discredit 100%. When we're elevating, when we're raising, please help us understand. Outside of having a newspaper, outside of the interest in the shipping, everything.
Nothing good enough for you though. There's nothing good enough for you.
Hold on, she's talking. Let her, because like I said, we're on the schedule here. We got her and 2 more speakers, so nobody else, please, over-speak her. She didn't say anything while anybody else was speaking. Give her that respect. Go ahead, Ned. Go ahead, Ned. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish up.
Sorry about that. And let's understand this. People want to elevate certain notable black leaders at that time. You cannot single out that leader and not also bring in the what was happening in Black America at that point in time. People brought up W.E.B. Du Bois and how he began to support Marcus Garvey. If you understand W.E.B. Du Bois, this dude went from A to B to Z. He went in all kinds of circles, not discrediting him. People brought up Booker T and saying that, oh, well, Booker T was supporting anti-lynching. But if you understand Booker T also said he was the accommodationist on some other shit. On some other mess. And this dude said that blacks in America should not get civil rights until they prove to white folk that we are deserving of civil rights. So let's understand, if you want to sit up here and bring up notable black leaders, let's unpack them in whole and discuss who they are and the impact that they had on us. Again, understand what was happening politically, economically, everything with black folk. And then when we understand and we address that, then we can say how it is that we respond to certain black leaders at that time. Because out of desperation, black people, here we are at this point in time with Marcus Garvey. We 75 years damn near removed from Emancipation Proclamation, and we're still dealing with a whole lot of anti-blackness. We're still not getting our repair. So they were going to follow any and everybody that they felt that they had confidence in getting shit done. But to this day, what has Marcus Garvey done for those million subscribers that were following him worldwide? With that, I'll land. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sister. Thank you. We're going to go to our other 2 speakers. For you guys that can, go ahead and support us on Cash App. That is $Newstoter. $Newstoter. The spaces are great and everything, but you need to really go to the news, the actual website, which is newstoter.com, the largest curation black-owned platform today in America. So please continue with us. Support us if you can by visiting, sign up on the newsletter, go to the website. You can sign up on our newsletter. You can also follow us on YouTube. I forgot to put the YouTube channel in, but we'll do that tomorrow night. Be sure to check us out Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when we do our Twitter Spaces, Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And like I said, you can support us on Cash App, $Newstoter. That is $Newstoter. Go ahead, Ty. 2 minutes. And
hey, Newstoter, I'll talk to you later, man. I'd rather eat nails than listen to Ty and Leon.
Can I get 20 seconds? 10 seconds. Don't forget T. Thomas Fortune.
That was mad disrespectful, but all right. So this is what I want to say.
Who was that speaking? Is that Ty?
Yeah, Ty Freeman, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Ty.
Let me premise it on this. So, a lot of us that are organizing the reparations space, right? We're also historians. Some of us are certified historians. Some of us are autodidactic. Myself, I'm actually more trained as a historian, also autodidactic. All right, what I'm going to say now is that when you're talking about the reparations movement, right, my sister Netta is correct, right? You have to start with Callie House. That's what we're doing. Also, in regards to someone talking about being disrespectful to our elders and going back 100 years and critiquing people, what I would say going back to talking about reparations, right, being a historian, you have to look at the Reconstruction era. My profile picture right now is a gentleman by the name of Tunis Campbell, a free black from New Jersey, came down to Georgia, worked on the Freedom Bureau, allocating land for the formerly enslaved, had a militia of 300 people on the Sea Island. Also, you got to talk about Susie King Taylor. There's all kind of American freemen, former U.S. chattel members of slavery, right, that were all stuff. Let's organize. Let's get ourselves together. Let's form militias. Let's know what we got to
start schools. What I'm hearing a lot of people considering someone that was technically a black capitalist in a reparations space. You cannot do that. Garvey, there's no ample evidence of him being in favor of reparations. He was a black capitalist. So there's a lot of like conflating going on right there. What we need to do is center it back on the ones that in the past, starting with Callie House, right, that were advocating for reparations. That's what we're doing now. A lot of us that are freedmen, descendants of U.S. chattel slaves, we're going back and going through this history, looking at our people that are had major accomplishments even way before the Civil War broke out and even afterward. That's where we're at. And that's where a lot of critique of Garvey is coming from. But we're seeing that transitioning from a lot of us from the Pan-Africanist kind of ideology going back to American freedmen ideology. We're centering it back on the people that deserve the most credit, and that is Callie House and all the other people that I mentioned that goes back to the Reconstruction era. I'll land with that. All right, appreciate you. Let's go ahead and let Leon. He'll be the last speaker tonight. So Leon, go ahead and unmute your mic. 2 minutes, and we're gonna be getting up out of here.
All right. Like I was saying about Marcus Garvey, it was just like I said. The Pan Africanist theory was a good theory. Unfortunately, it just never worked. What would happen if he could have got the Black Star Line and could have got people back to Africa? What was the African countries that was going to let him come in to live? I mean, we already seen what happened with Liberia. We have less than, I think you have less than 3% of people that escaped to Liberia still have ancestors back in America. Most of them got slaughtered when they went over there. So I mean, I'm just throwing that out there too. But oh gee, now I just lost my train of thought, man. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, Newstoter. I'm just gonna land there, man. I apologize. But thanks for the mic. I appreciate it.
No problem. I just want to give a shout out to Rena for the contribution on Cash App. Thank you. Appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. DJ, I know you've been pretty much gone all night, so I'll pretty much go ahead and close it out because I don't know how much of the space you actually heard. But let me go ahead and just.
No, I heard everything. I ain't working another space over here. Shout out to Secret Sister. But, I heard everything about Garvey. And, this ain't really my type of talk or rhetoric. I'm more just trying to push forward with the reparations. But I think this is important that, in order for us to move forward, I always feel like you got to learn from your past. So if Garvey was, on some off-coast, shit, or just shit wasn't what we assumed it was. Shit, or just shit wasn't what we assumed it was.
Everybody else just pretty much did their thing. So I definitely appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody who came, who listened, who spoke, who tweeted out the space. Everybody who came in and everybody who will go ahead and please make sure you tweet out the space so some of your followers can actually hear this conversation tomorrow or tonight or whatever. So let's try to keep the dialogue going or whatever. It was Marcus and Garvey's birthday. I felt this was a pretty good topic. We were going to talk about the monkeypox and some migrants. We'll try to get to that tomorrow, but we just wanted to go ahead and talk about this since this was his birthday, and there were other spaces talking about his impact or how he'd be accepted today or this and that. So I thought it would be a good topic to have, and like I said, I'm glad everybody came out. You guys make sure you follow us on Twitter for those that's not. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you can, contribute on the Cash App, which is $Newstoter. And until tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be back.